Good evening. You can all hear me, right? Okay. As Catherine said, my name is David Avignone. I'm the Associate Director of Students for Life of Illinois. For those of you who don't know what our organization is about, for those of you who haven't opened up the brochure on your seat, we are a ministry that helps pro-life college students actually be pro-life on their college campus, in a nutshell. We are statewide, so we're on campuses throughout the state, approximately 30 of them right now. And there are over 100 campuses, big and small, across the state. So we have a lot of work to do. Anyways, it's weird that I'm up here because I don't, just a couple years ago, I'd never imagined being up in front of anyone talking about abortion. It wasn't actually about 4 years ago this time when I got involved in the pro-life movement. And it was election season, and I just got really disgusted. See, I was always pro-life, but I didn't do anything about it. I just voted pro-life. Once I heard so many people, supposedly of good faith, and especially Catholics, who were supporting such radically pro-abortion politicians and policies, I decided to get involved. And 4 years later, I'm standing up here. So it's crazy what the Holy Spirit will do, because I'm no longer working in the private world that I was in for 9 years. I'm now working 100% for Students for Life of Illinois. So I wanted to give a little bit of background on the pro-life and abortion issue, just to help us understand where we've come in 40 years. And then I want to transition into the college scene and give you a little bit of background of what's going on and what Students for Life of Illinois is doing. But I don't know a life without legalized abortion. And I know many of us live our lives as though, we don't think about it. It's become institutionalized, just the culture of death in general, in so many of our institutions and organizations throughout the country. And I just want to touch on a couple of those. The first one is our health care. And as you know, there's a lot of talk about healthcare nowadays, but we haven't, there's hospitals out there that are supposed to be taking care of the sick and dying, but in fact, abortions no longer occur just at abortion clinics. Hospitals are doing abortions. That's how institutionalized the culture of death has become, where it's now part of our healthcare system. And I know there's an example here locally in Christ Hospital, of all places. They were allowing babies to die after they were born alive during an abortion. And, it's sad that they're doing this in Christ's name. So we have a lot of work to do, because even our own Christian organizations are supporting such radical positions. And I want to cover Medicaid a little bit and how we treat our poor. Instead of actually helping our poor, we advocate and give money to them so they don't produce anymore. We have over $300 million every year going to Planned Parenthood alone. And that's just the tip of the iceberg of how much money of our tax dollars is being spent on just the culture of death, not just abortion, but euthanasia. It goes on. The list is deep. So that's one aspect. There are so many different institutions where the culture of death is permeated. But I also want to talk on just briefly about religion, because outside of the Catholic Church and some other, the Orthodox Church and select Protestant denominations, abortion is no longer tolerated, or is not only tolerated in some religions, but advocated for. And just a list of examples is the Episcopal Church, the Presbyterian Church, the Unitarian Church, the United Church of Christ, and United Methodist Church. And they're doing this in the name of compassion, in Christ's name again, which is, it's scary. So I'm glad to be part of the Catholic Church, and we are never going to change our position on the truth. And it's good. It's a good feeling to be a part of that. Now, I do want to get into the last institution. I'm sure you understand, or you know what it's going to be. But the education system is where we entrust our children to be formed, and it's failed us. I work in the most hostile environment for the culture of death, or hostile for the culture of life, and that's higher education. Higher education is the worst, and it's sad because we send our kids off to college thinking that they're getting a good education. Little do we know that moral relativity rules the college campus. And there's some statistics that are very troubling. Well, first off, the majority of abortions in America are performed on college-age women. So 1 in 10 college-age women will get pregnant every year. And those are the ones that are reported. Those who didn't take the morning after pill, those who didn't, do the Plan B. It's very scary. And according to the Illinois Department of Health, which Emily has quoted several times, 16,000 abortions are performed on college-age women every year in Illinois alone. So we have a lot of work to do, especially on a college campus. Now, there's another reason why college campus is very detrimental to the culture of life, and that's that there's a changing of beliefs a lot of times that goes on college campuses. College is where most of us go for the first time independently and are forced, or out of no other choice, to make our own choices. There's no longer the support system behind us to make those decisions for us. The family is no longer the support structure for many students, not all of them. And so, in fact, 47% of women who enter college pro-life, 47% of women enter college pro-life. When they graduate 4 years later, it's 27%. And that shows exactly what's going on in college campuses. Because even the best of us, and I was one of them, you buy into the moral relativity that campuses just tolerate. Anything goes. As long as you do it out of love, it's good, So there's no other institution in the entire country that can claim these types of numbers and statistics, where people's minds and souls are damaged for the rest of their lives. And so why do college students fall into the culture of death while they're away at college? I outlined about 6 of them. The first one is that abortion has been legal for their entire life. So I'm 34. Roe versus Wade was passed 40 years ago, so that's all I know to be the case. And I know plenty of you have lived in a country where it wasn't legal. So we sort of just tolerate it, especially my generation. It's there, and a lot of times morality is the result of legality. So people make their moral judgments on whether or not it's actually legal. So that's one factor that contributes to the culture of death on college campuses. The second one is that women just aren't made aware of the consequences of abortion. And we're not even talking about the state of their soul. We're talking about the health, their long-term, their lifespan, the increase of breast cancer rates among those who get abortions. So many people just don't even know that they're actually killing a child in their womb because no one tells them. It's just silence, and that's what happens on college campuses. Now, the third one is, like I said, I referenced before, is people no longer have the support structure that they had when they were in high school and before. So when a crisis comes up, let's say a girl gets pregnant, who is she turning to a lot of times? Sometimes, if she's not just internalizing it, she's turning to her friends. And her friends are on campus, and you know what campus is like. So there's that, it's intangible, but people go away to school thinking that they're independent and free, but it's no longer they're all happy about it, but when something does come up, they are no longer able to make those right judgments without that proper support structure. Third one, or fourth one, universities are just not friendly to pregnant women and single mothers. When was the last time you heard of a dorm that actually had rooms for women who did get pregnant and want to raise a baby and go to school? It's institutionalized, even on all our private colleges and campuses, Catholic as well. There just isn't that support for the mother who is facing that crisis pregnancy. Now, there are many crisis pregnancy centers throughout the country, which, as an organization, we team up with, so people are more aware of those organizations. But institutionally, colleges don't provide the resources. And in fact, here in Illinois, many of our public schools are, for historically, I think for 10 or 20 years in that span, have been covering abortions for their students under the healthcare plans. So not only are they not, providing the housing or food, food for the babies, whatever it may be, they're actually trying to make sure that you don't have a baby, and that's very unfortunate. Now, fifth is just a hostile environment for the pro-life movement on campus. College professors, when I was in college, and maybe many of you, it's almost the default position to be this pro-abortion or pro-choice on campus. So college professors talk about it openly as though it's okay, and there's no stigma to being pro-abortion or pro-choice on a college campus. Now, the moment someone rises up and tries to stand for the truth, they are usually shot down, and many times persecuted, whether it's with grades or just outcasted from the social scene on campus. So those are 5 areas where college students are sort of taken over by the culture of death on campus. Now, the last major reason why the culture of life doesn't spread on campus is that our pro-life groups in general are not effective. Throughout the country, it's been a lot of groups are turning their wheels because they're just not doing the right things. Whatever it may be on campus, they're not effective enough. A lot of times, poor leadership and structure among the organization of that pro-life group on campus. Trial and error. There's no process or a proven process that they use to be an effective group. And lastly, a lot of times people just are perceived, if you're pro-life on campus and you're part of a group, you're either perceived as a religious fanatic, a social outcast, or you're just anti-women. And those are basically the list of problems that pro-life groups are facing on campus. So that's where Students for Life of Illinois comes in. And Students for Life of Illinois, like I said, is an umbrella organization, and we support pro-life groups on campus to be more effective. We educate students. We motivate them. We motivate them to become more pro-life and to become leaders. Not just be part of a group, but actually lead it. And using their gifts in order to do so. So identifying their gifts. And also teaching them the most effective ways of being an effective group on campus. And doing it with a smile on the face, which sometimes is pretty difficult on some of our campuses. And lastly, mentorship. And this is probably the most invaluable part of what we do as an organization, is that we provide one-on-one relationships to students throughout, we're growing this process because it's hard. We don't have enough staff, but we do have 2 campus mentors who work with pro-life students on several college campuses, Loyola being one of them right here. And this is very valuable to develop an individual, to develop their skills and gifts, to be not only for their own sake, but to go and spread the the truth with their friends and their classmates on campus. And this has been something that we started a year ago. John Paul Deddens is our executive director, and he started the organization 6 years ago. And he had this vision all along, he just didn't have the funds to do it. And last year we were able to hire a campus mentor who knows exactly what to do, because he started a pro-life group on his own campus about 6 years ago. So he's a recent graduate, and he's doing great things. And what's underlying about our organization is that we do it in a fresh way. We're no longer the outcast of society. We're actually bringing the culture of life to college campuses in a great way. And there's many successes. And the first one, it's going to be in a video. It's an example of 2 Northwestern students here, from the area, who stood up in the face of persecution. Can you?
A Chicago man heads to court today after he's arrested for praying in public. The charge he's facing is disorderly conduct. You're looking at video right here. Police say he violated the city's new bubble zone ordinance because he was outside of a Planned Parenthood clinic. That ordinance prohibits a person from coming within 8 feet of a health facility without permission. Joining me now are Joe Holland, the man who was praying outside the clinic, and his attorney, Peter Breen. Joe, let me go to you first. I understand that you have prayed outside of clinics like this 8 to 10 times before. You've never been arrested. What happened this time?
This time I was standing by the entrance, as you see in the video, praying, and one of the Planned Parenthood volunteers came up to me and started yelling at me and basically telling me to move away from the door. I didn't heed her request, but I also didn't respond to her. I just stood there and kept praying. And ultimately, they called the cops. By the time I was finished praying, I was basically packed up for the day, ready to go home. And the police came and arrested me.
Mr. Breen, did Joe do anything else other than just stand there and pray? I mean, would there have been any other reason for this Planned Parenthood employee to have come out and called the police?
Well, the reason given is that somehow there were different spots, that somehow that was the Planned Parenthood volunteers' spot on a public sidewalk, a busy public sidewalk, in the heart of a heavily trafficked area in the city of Chicago. And so I think she got personally offended by this. And then when she called the police, the city of Chicago decided to arrest Joe, even though they had no evidence to do so.
Mm-hmm. Why is this so important to you?
I think it's important because as a Christian, I believe that prayer has power. God hears the cry of the poor. So ultimately, God is the only one who can change the hearts and minds of the people who are seeking abortions, the abortionists, and then the politicians who allow these laws, such as the bubble zone, to go on the books.
As you can see, Joe was represented by Peter Breen, who's the, I don't know his title, but he's the executive director of Thomas More Society. So, that's a little plug for Thomas More, but we do partner with Thomas More here in Illinois to represent, in cases like that. So it's great to have that relationship with them. Now, the second video I want to show is another success, because things like this just don't happen. It happens because, obviously because of the way people are raised, but also because of organizations like ours that can be there for students as they face issues and all that. So, this is a Bradley University student.
To be a nurse, basically, is to care incredibly for other people, deeply for them, for what is best for them. Is to be a nurse. You use your heart and use your hands, and that's it. That's it at its core. I anticipated going into disaster relief nursing. That was what I was going to do. I was going to run the Red Cross And I had never really connected that with what's going on in with the things that I was interested in outside of that. When I was growing up, we used to go to the Life Change Sundays every year. They have people all across the country, and on a particular Sunday, they all stand and hold basically pro-life signs or pray for an end to abortion. Because I'd seen my parents open to life, it was not really something that was political for me, but just very much this is the way we live. When I realized that women's health nursing was ultimately what I wanted to do, it just made total sense.
At that point, Anne-Marie was getting her undergraduate degree in nursing, and so she decided to put an application in for a graduate residency program at Vanderbilt University. In that was a requirement that she would agree to participate in abortions.
If they were able to get away with that, nursing schools across the country would, I think, have opened the door for that to infringe upon the conscience rights, specifically of nursing students. And the whole point of being a nurse is that you care for people from some place that is deep within you. You care about what is best for them. If you're prohibited from providing the absolute best care that you can for that person, there's no point in being a nurse.
After speaking with Anne-Marie and understanding what her religious beliefs were, ADF decided to send a federal complaint to Health and Human Services objecting to this illegal requirement that forced not only Anne-Marie, but any other student who was serious about their pro-life beliefs basically to agree to this or not apply at all.
I wasn't sure if I should have used my name because I wanted to make sure that I passed boards and I wanted to make sure that I could get a job. And those are very scary things because that's my life and livelihood. That's the profession I built 4 years upon.
Certainly if a student files a federal complaint like that, there's a great possibility of retaliation. That could be being dismissed or rejected from your program, something in her permanent file, limiting her ability later on to take the boards or to practice nursing.
Even though I was afraid that there might be backlash at my school, even though there were risks, at the end of the day, you have to stand up for what is most important to you.
As a result of ADF's letter sent to federal authorities, within 26 hours, the university agreed to rescind its policy requiring students to agree to participate in abortions. Now, not only was this a victory for Anne-Marie, but it was a victory for every student that will come after her. And what's great for Anne-Marie is now she gets to bring her passion to her profession and not only help women, but also protect the unborn.
The combination of people who work at ADF, who love the Lord, and are so full of joy, really, and a determination to pursue what's best for other people, you know, and to stand up for the rights of those who are not able to stand up for themselves. This is not a political issue. This is not me out there being religious. No, this is really, ultimately, about addressing what is best for women and the things that go against that. And so ultimately that is why I get excited about this in the morning, is not because I've learned so much about theoretically how this happens, but literally is because this has to do with people's lives.
So Anne-Marie is just one of thousands of students across the country that are actually standing up, and it's great to see stories like this. Now, yes, the culture of death permeates throughout all of our institutions, particularly higher education. It doesn't mean there is no hope. In fact, I think it's quite the opposite, because what we see is more people like Anne-Marie and Joe and all the thousands of students that we interact with on a yearly basis. They're getting more involved. And in fact, last year at the National Students for Life Conference in Washington, D.C., there were 2,000 students that attended. And that is a record. It's never been that much before. And in fact, it would have been a lot more if the venue was bigger, because they sold out just within a month of all the registrations starting. So it's great to see that hope and enthusiasm among college students, and it's growing. So don't be afraid of the students that are coming out of our college campuses, because they are awesome. I wish I could have been like them when I was at So I just want to close. First, if you do want to learn more about our organization, I do have those brochures. And there's a contact card if you want to leave it. We'll sign you up on an email list or newsletter. It would be great if you could do so. There's a box on the table in back. You could leave it. So I thank you very much, and I appreciate all your support for the pro-life movement. And I'll take questions afterwards. So thank you.